What the heck is a CDN? Warning, we are going to get techy. We're going to get a little bit too tech talky today, but it's something that I feel like we need to cover. So I'm going to talk CDNs in just one moment here on the Podcast Accelerator with me, Mr. Mark Asquith. I'm that British podcast guy and CEO and co-founder here at Rebel-Based Media, where we make all sorts of podcasting goodness, including the world's #1 podcasting WordPress support platform, podcast websites. We also make Productivity, the stealth interaction tech that is going to be making waves starting early next year when we unleash it to the world. Plus, of course, we make Captivate.fm, the podcast hosting platform that is absolutely crushing it in the industry by doing things in a more thoughtful manner. And you can also go and check out Captivate.fm for free for 7 days at Captivate.fm. Now, like I said, I'm going to kind of dig into some of the tech talk today. It's not something that I'd ordinarily do. This is by no means an ad for anything that we do. And I just kind of, I've been looking on Facebook. I've been looking at people, just how people are handling certain questions. And there's a trend of making podcasting still feel more complicated than it needs to be. Now, it is a complex beast, just like anything, but to get started, and as an independent podcaster that's a hobbyist or someone that just wants to create a show because they love it, it doesn't have to be that complicated. You don't have to put up with all that kind of curmudgeon on Facebook where someone posts something and makes you feel silly in the comments, or you get some expert posting something and making you feel stupid, or calling other companies out for getting things quote unquote wrong. Like, I don't think that's the way to do things in podcasting, because it was built on this open nature. Why aren't we just open and friendly with each other? I don't get it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of demystify some of the techie terms that I see thrown about on the net, just so that you can be a little bit more confident online. But before I do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to AWeber. My good friend Evo Terry yesterday did a wonderful episode of his show, Podcast Pontifications. I highly urge that you check it out. Did a wonderful show talking about newsletters versus distributing your content. I'm a huge fan of email marketing for your podcast. I'm a huge fan of onboarding people into your content, onboarding people onto your platform like we do with Captivate and podcast websites. But generally speaking, just giving the right content to the right people at the right time and building relationships up, okay? So AWeber helps me to do that. They've helped me to do that for a long, long time, and I highly recommend that you check them out for 90 days free at markasquith.com/AWeber. Right. Like I said, tech talk alert. Boom, boom, boom. Tech talk, tech talk, tech talk. CDN, an acronym that is very, very boring. It stands for Content Delivery Network. They are boring, but they're vital to podcasting. I hear a lot of people being confused by many of the techie terms around podcasting. So I figured I'd demystify some of them, starting with this one. So strap in, it's going to get crazy. Yep, seriously, it's going to get nuts because we're going to talk tech boring. I'm going to try and brighten it up at least. So the reason that I want to talk to you about this today is that, look, we run a hosting platform, Captivate.fm, and we use an external content delivery network. It's called StackPath, and Libsyn use it, Simplecast use it, and a few other podcasting hosting companies use it. All right, it's basically it's a service that we all buy, and it is charged to us in bandwidth. So what that means is that for every piece of data, every byte of data that is transferred between the CDN and the listener, that just basically means that we get charged for that. So 1 megabyte costs us money. 1 gigabyte costs us money. 1 terabyte costs us money. And that's how we build our pricing. We add all the layer of the features. We'll give you the dashboard, the analytics. We'll give you the RSS feed generation, some of the marketing tools, everything else that Captivate does. And a part of that pricing is how we are charged for the CDN. So we basically include that cost. Okay, so CDNs are very, very important. Now, the reason that I'm talking about them is that they actually matter. So Daniel J. Lewis did a speed test, and basically he tested all of the podcast hosts, and Captivate, while it was still in beta, performed in one of the highest performing podcast hosts on the planet. It was very, 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 very highly recommended while still in beta. It was the only one in beta on that list. Everything else was very, very established, and it had been around for years and years. Captivate was still in beta, and it tested better than I think around 95% of the other people. All right, go and check it out. Google Daniel J. Lewis, podcast hosting speed. You will find the article and see the results for yourself. Now, the way that a CDN works is very, very simple, right? What it does is, imagine a load of different nodes, a load of different server buildings. Imagine them as physical office locations, okay? One in New York, one in, let's say one in San Francisco, one in Los Angeles, one in San Diego, one in France, one in Germany, one in England, one in Scotland, one in Alaska, one in Canada, one in Australia. Excuse me, you've got all these different buildings, okay? These are all servers. So what happens then is that when you upload your media to Captivate or to another podcast hosting platform, we upload that audio and we take it onto our servers. So we've got our own servers, again, all over the world. And what happens is, let's say that someone from New York City says, I want to listen to this show from Mark. When someone downloads that from the East Coast, that East Coast building, that East Coast server on the CDN, the Content Delivery Network, will get that file from us and it will store it on its own little local machine. On its own, and it's a little bit more complex than that. Obviously, there are thousands of machines for redundancies and so on, but essentially it's one machine and it will store that file. And every time someone from the proximity of the East Coast of the US wants to listen to my show, instead of going right back to where our servers are and trying to find the nearest server, it will just get it from the local New York quote-unquote office, the New York server. The same for people in San Francisco. If someone in San Francisco listens, the CDN will get our file, it will get the MP3 file or the M4A file, and it will put it on the server local to that person, so that when the next person in San Francisco listens, it downloads really, really quickly. And that happens all over the world. Now, why is this important? Well, there are certain hosting companies, there are certain people that don't have the very best CDNs, whose downloads are a little slower, and so on and so forth. Now, the reason that this matters is because it's all about your downloads, because the other thing that the CDN does is it sends us as Captivate log files. It sends us logs back that says these amount of devices from these locations using this IP address, and these IP addresses have requested these files. Go away, do your job as Captivate, and decipher which of these are genuine downloads that are IAB specifically compliant, certified, and so on. Okay, so we take those log files from the CDN and we say, right, actually, which ones of these are legitimate downloads? And then that is what you see in Captivate's dashboard. So they are very, very important, and it's very important to understand this because the speed of your CDN counts. If it's a slow CDN, which Captivate's is not, it's lightning fast, what you'll tend to find is that sometimes maybe your downloads will suffer. Maybe you move to another host that isn't as fast and your downloads will drop because the file isn't being served in time. It's not being sent to the listener in time. Thus, the listener is tuning out. It's not, the listener's just thinking, well, this is taking too long, so I'm not going to listen. Okay? So these things matter. Now, I know it's technical and boring, but like I said, the reason for doing this kind of series, this kind of tech talk is because no one's telling you this stuff. No one is telling you this stuff. No one is telling you that, look, our hosting company, Captivate, uses a CDN company called StackPath. You can Google them. You can look them up. They're the best in the business. Libsyn use them. Simplecast, a lot of other people. Everyone keeps it secret. There's no sense in doing that. So now you've got a little bit more knowledge. You can then start to discuss things a little bit more in depth online. You don't have to feel silly when other people in the industry are being condescending in the Facebook comments or making you feel stupid because you've not been there since 2004. All right? I don't think that's the way to do business. I don't think it's the way to be a person. I think we've got to be more open and friendly, and I think we've got to educate and help people because that's how we all thrive, okay? So that's why I'm doing these Tech Talk podcasts. It's like I said, it's a little bit dull. I get that, but I think it's important to see what the other side of podcasting is like. It's not just all about the content. It's not all about the planning. It's not all about the listeners. It is a little bit about the tech. All right, it is about the tech. So if you find that interesting, if you're a bit of a techie, all well and good. If you're not, that's all right. I completely understand. Just tell someone that you think is a techie what they need to know. Just give them the kind of digest from this. Let me know what you do want covering. Have you got any questions that you need demystifying? Just let me know at Mr. Asquith on Twitter. Hit me up over there. That's my communication platform of choice. And thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure. Please go and check out Captivate.fm for your hosting needs. And until the next time, never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.